Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. It was a bloody weekend with multiple deadly attacks in different parts of the country. We have the latest on another church shooting and a mass shooting in North Carolina where the suspect fled in a boat. In a surprise move, Mayor Eric Adams dropped out of the New York City mayoral race yesterday. This, of course, under escalating pressure to clear the crowded field in a last-ditch attempt to stop socialist Zohran Mamdani's election to City Hall. We have the latest on that. Federal agents began arriving in a war-ravaged Portland, Oregon over the weekend after President Donald Trump ordered military deployment to the city, with at least one class already erupting outside of an ICE facility. Country music icon Dolly Parton is postponing her highly anticipated Las Vegas concert series after doctors ordered her to take time off for health reasons. And Tommy Pope, the former prosecutor who led the case against child killer Susan Smith, told a true crime conference over the weekend that the gravity of her crime demands she stay in prison. Ms. Smith will be eligible for parole again in 2026.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
What happened yesterday morning in Michigan is absolutely heartbreaking, deeply disturbing. A house of worship, a place meant for peace, prayer, community, became the scene of terror. A 40-year-old Marine veteran, identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford, launched a horrific attack on a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints congregation in Grand Blanc Township, about 50 miles north of Detroit. Authorities say that the shooter rammed his Chevy Silverado, flying two American flags out of the back, straight into the church, opened fire on worshipers, and then set the building ablaze, leaving at least 4 dead, multiple others wounded. Hundreds of people were inside for the 10 a.m. service when this nightmare began. By the time the police arrived, within seconds, the gunman had already exchanged fire with them. He was killed at the scene in a shootout with law enforcement. Now investigators say they found improvised explosive devices on church property, and bomb squads are combing through his home in nearby Burton. Eyewitnesses described chaos and disbelief. One man said at first they thought it was an accident, that someone had crashed into the church by mistake. They ran outside to help, and then the shooting started. Another witness told the New York Times he was shot as he tried to reach his wife and kids, describing bullets shattering glass and worshipers fleeing through the back door. By the time the flames took over, the entire building was engulfed with aerial footage showing plumes of black smoke billowing in the sky for miles and miles. I mean, it was just horrific. Now, this guy was a U.S. Marine. He served in Iraq from 2004 to 2008. Social media shows that he is a husband and a father. There's even an old GoFundMe from years ago for his young son's rare medical condition. Family photos show smiles, sunflowers, and trucks. The picture of a normal Midwestern life. So what happened? What caused him to snap? Authorities haven't released a motive yet, but of course they're digging deep, and I expect we'll get that in the days to come. They're also exploring whether there's any connection between this attack and the death of longtime LDS president Russell Nelson, who passed away the day before at age 101. So far, there's no confirmed link, but investigators are leaving no stone unturned. This wasn't just a shooting, though. This was a full-scale assault on a church with possible explosives, fire, mass casualties. And if we're honest, we're seeing a growing pattern of ideological violence, mental illness, and spiritual darkness playing out across our nation. Now, eventually, we may learn that he has some beef with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We don't know. He could just have a beef with churches in general. He may have known nothing about this particular church. I mean, we've seen churches burned. We've seen pastors attacked, synagogues targeted, and now a Latter-day Saints congregation torn apart on what started out to be a quiet Sunday morning. When I hear stories like this, I can't help but think back to the words of President Ronald Reagan, who once said, if we ever forget that we are one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under. What's happening to our country? What's happening to us as brothers and sisters in our country? When places of worship become battlefields, something has gone deeply wrong in the soul of America. This man reportedly was a veteran, a Marine who once wore our nation's uniform, which raises a lot of questions, tough questions about how we're supporting those who come home from war. Are we identifying the warning signs? Are we taking seriously the mental health issues that they have to deal with? Could this have been such a case? The flags on that truck, the symbols of patriotism, I mean, that's what evil does. Evil takes a person like this who he obviously was proud of his country, proud of being an American, proud that he served his country, but it kind of takes what's sacred and turns it into chaos. Law enforcement acted heroically, according to reports. Responders were on the scene in under a minute, and it likely saved many more lives. But let's not forget the first responders who rushed into the flames, the worshipers who shielded others, the neighbors who opened their homes to the wounded. Even in horror, there was still courage, like often is in these types of cases. And today, the Latter-day Saints community is grieving. Whether you agree with their particular religion or not, you still have to grieve with them for their losses. They can't be alone. Every faith community in America should see this as a wake-up call to remain vigilant, to support one another, and to pray without ceasing. Maybe 2 weekends ago, on the weekend show, Word on the Street, I had Leslie Harrell from CNC Indoor Range because they are having training for churches for this very reason. And we have come to the time, sadly, that churches need to be trained on how to respond to these types of attacks. So today we pray for Grand Blanc. We pray for the families who lost loved ones, for those who are fighting to survive because of their injuries, for the officers who ran towards danger, to the firefighters who fought the fire, to the EMTs who helped treat those who were injured. Because again, these first responders, they see these types of situations day in and day out. You can't unsee some of the things that they see. And of course, we pray for the troubled soul who caused all of this, who carried this evil out. Because only God can redeem a heart that's broken like that. Only God can take away that type of pain. And if, in fact, we eventually learn that this man was dealing with PTSD, for example, because of his service to our country, it's just a reminder that we have to get ahead of this. We have to pick up the pace on trying to identify our veterans who are hurting, who are troubled, and who need help so that they don't turn to something like this. If you're listening today and you know of someone, or maybe you're hurting, But maybe you know someone, maybe a church friend or your neighbor. You've seen it. You've seen darkness. Try to get them help. Don't let anger and fear and despair take root. Try to intervene because, again, once evil takes hold, it starts destroying everything. It destroys our faith. It destroys our families. It destroys our freedom. And we can't allow that to happen, folks. We have to work together. We have to come together and beat this evil before it beats us. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know because I lost 33 pounds with PhD weight loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. By the way, one more thing before we move on from the horrific shooting and the violence over the weekend. In another instance, in North Carolina, a shooter escaped on a boat after pulling up to a marina, opening fire on a group of restaurant diners, killing 3 individuals and injuring 8. The suspect, whose identity was unknown as of early this morning, pulled up to a popular tourist hotspot in Southport, North Carolina. It was around 9:30 p.m. on Saturday night. Shots rang out near the American Fish Company before the suspect fled the scene on the Intracoastal Waterway towards Oak Island, about 40 minutes outside of Wilmington, North Carolina. The shooter was the lone occupant of the boat, according to witnesses. Shortly after 10 p.m., the U.S. Coast Guard observed a person matching the suspect's description loading their boat on a public ramp. The person of interest was detained by the Coast Guard and was brought in for questioning at the Oak Island Police Department with assistance from the State Bureau of Investigation. Town officials assured residents there was no further threat to the public. Officials previously issued a warning saying to avoid the area. The boat that was involved was a white center console boat. The Brunswick County Sheriff's Office confirmed on social media that they were assisting the city of Southport with the investigation. We'll expect to probably hear more about this particular situation and the causes of it as well. Breaking news out in New York City yesterday, Mayor Eric Adams has officially dropped out of the mayoral race, sending shockwaves, if you will, through the Democrat establishment and reshaping what's become one of the most chaotic and consequential city elections in decades. In a video released from Gracie Mansion, Adams told New Yorkers, "It's been an honor to be your mayor. I know I cannot continue my campaign." After weeks of speculation and pressure from both parties, behind-the-scenes talks, even with President Donald Trump, Mayor Adams, I guess, has finally realized he has to move aside. So what happens here? Why is the sitting mayor of America's largest city walking away just a few weeks before the election? And what does this mean for the race, especially the socialist frontrunner, Zohran Mamdani, who is poised to take City Hall unless the field consolidates behind a single candidate? Is this too little, too late? Adams entered the race with a record that he hoped would carry him through it. He says that violent crime was down to record lows, over 23,000 illegal guns taken off the streets, a migrant crisis that's finally easing with 4,000 new arrivals a week, down to fewer than 100, and more than 400,000 affordable housing units protected, with a plan for 1 million more on the way. He views that as successes and was running on that record. Not to mention, Adams made national headlines for his bold stance against anti-Semitism, establishing New York's Office to Combat Anti-Semitism and calling out Albany's failed bail reforms. By any measure, that's probably a pretty good record to stand on if you're a Democrat in New York. But Adams was also running with baggage. He had a federal corruption case that, while it was eventually dismissed, was casting a shadow. He was indicted last fall on bribery and fraud charges, accused of accepting more than $100,000 in illegal donations and travel perks. He maintained his innocence, called the case lawfare, and said he'd do it again in service to the city. But it did damage his candidacy. So in his farewell message, Adams admitted the obvious. The speculation, the fundraising challenges, the media attacks, they made it impossible to continue, he said. But behind the scenes, this wasn't all just about money and his record. According to insiders, President Donald Trump himself has been working the phones trying to clear the field to stop the socialist candidate from taking power in America's largest city, which would just be a devastation for that city. Now, some may say, well, why do you care about New York? New York has so many things going on that affects the rest of the country that we can't just ignore it. Mamdani is a self-described Democrat socialist. A state assemblyman from Queens has surged to the top of the polls and popularity among young people. His radical platform includes defunding police, expanding city-run housing, and created taxpayer-funded migrant benefits, not to mention he wants the government to take over the running of grocery stores. If he's able to do some of the things that he wants to do, he could permanently damage New York City. And again, New York being the epicenter of business, of financial markets, that could be devastating to a lot of other people, whether you live there or not. So the idea is to narrow the field down so that you have a concerted effort to stop this one candidate. Now, there's still other candidates in there. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee, there's some effort, I understand, to get him out. Andrew Cuomo, and I don't care for Cuomo at all, but Andrew Cuomo, according to polls, has the best shot. Cuomo is polling as an independent in the mid-20s. As Zohran Mamdani, he's polling in the mid-30s. Curtis Sliwa in the high teens. Eric Adams had low double digits before dropping out. So if we can add that to Andrew Cuomo, and if Sliwa eventually drops out, which some think he will, some think he won't, I would predict he does not. But we'll see. Cuomo is the only one that appears to be in striking distance. And that needs a one-on-one race. So there's a lot of pressure to these other candidates to move aside and let Cuomo take him on one-to-one. We'll see. Adams insists he's proud of his record, saying that jobs are up, crime is down, and the city is stronger than it was 4 years ago when he took office. And to his credit, crime stats have improved. Shootings are at a historic low for New York City. The NYPD is seizing illegal guns at record pace. Even the migrants crisis, which he once called a ticking time bomb, has eased thanks to new federal partnerships. And he has been somewhat cooperative with the Trump administration on this. Now, make no mistake, this race isn't just about New York again. It's about the direction of America's biggest city. And by extension, the message sends nationwide shockwaves when we look at possibly a socialist being the mayor of our largest city. Can't let it happen. News out of Nashville, country music icon Dolly Parton is postponing her highly anticipated Las Vegas concert series after doctors ordered her to take some time off for health reasons. She's 79 years old. You kind of forget about that when you see her because she looks so young. She shared the news directly with fans on Instagram yesterday, saying she's been battling, quote, health challenges and needs to undergo a few medical procedures. though she made it clear she's not stepping away from music altogether. She wrote, "I want the fans and public to hear directly from me. Unfortunately, I'll need to postpone my upcoming Las Vegas concerts. My doctors tell me that I must have a few procedures." The singer of the hit Jolene was set to perform 6 shows at Caesars Palace Coliseum at the end of the year, but she said she won't be able to rehearse or deliver the full-scale production that fans have come to expect from her. In her post, she said, "You pay good money to see me perform, and I want to be at my best for you. I just need a little time to get the show ready." And, kudos to her to recognize her limits, to recognize that she needs to deliver a good performance. How many times have you been to a concert of someone like a Dolly Parton who's been around for a number of years, and they're getting some age on them, and you don't even recognize the songs because of the way they perform them? I was at a concert like that last year, and I think it was Steely Dan who opened for the Eagles when the Eagles kicked off their tour at Madison Square Garden. I didn't recognize the music because it sounded so different, because his voice has changed so with age and with the way he was performing it as well. You just don't enjoy it as much because we're accustomed to what we heard for years and years on the radio, and that's how we want it to sound, right? So kudos to Dolly Parton to recognize she cannot deliver what people's expectations are. She joked that it's time for her 100,000-mile checkup and clarified it's not the usual trip to see my plastic surgeon. This is the second health-related absence for Dolly Parton this month. Earlier in September, she missed a major event at her theme park, Dollywood, where she was expected to help unveil a new ride there. At the time, she revealed in a video message that she was recovering from a kidney stone and infection and that her doctor had advised her against traveling. Despite these setbacks, Dolly made it clear she's not slowing down for good. She said, "Don't worry about me quitting the business. God hasn't said anything about stopping yet." Since releasing her debut album in 1967, Dolly Parton has put out 49 studio albums, earned 11 Grammys, and become one of the most beloved figures in American music history. Her fans and the industry will no doubt be pulling for a speedy recovery. No word yet on the rescheduled concert dates in Las Vegas, but her team says that she'll continue working on other projects from home in Nashville, and as soon as her doctors say that she's ready, she'll be back out on the stage. Also in the music industry, Richard Sturban of the Oak Ridge Boys shared a devastating health update with his fans. He's 82 years old. Took to his band's website this past weekend as well to announce that he has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. In Sturban's post, he said, "In March of this year, I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, but I am under the care of the best doctors in the country, and with the help of the good Lord above, I believe I'll be able to get through this." He said that he wanted to thank everyone, especially his fans, for concern and for prayers. Sturban has been a member of the Oak Ridge Boys for over 50 years, having joined the quartet in 1972. He last appeared on stage with the band during their performance at the Academy of Country Music Awards back in the spring in May, with Aaron McCune and Tim Duncan filling in for him lately during the band's tour. The popular country and gospel music band was originally founded in 1943 and was originally known as the Oak Ridge Quartet. Throughout the years, the band has had many members. So prayers for both of these folks that we have had around performing for many, many years. On the text line, Ginger in Western North Carolina. And Ginger's texting about last week, I think it was Friday, I talked about forgiveness. And I talked specifically about how touching it was and what a profound impact Erica Kirk had when she said in her message in the beautiful memorial service for Charlie that she forgives the man who shot and killed her husband. And many of you have texted and emailed me. Ginger says, you ask, who do you need to forgive? For me, it is my ex-husband. I was mad about what he did to our marriage, but I could work through that because I had no delusion that I was perfect. My anger and bitterness came from what he did to my children. They were innocent. Then it hit me. So was Christ. Yet he took on our sins and forgave them. My heart broke. I forgive my ex and ask God to heal my heart. Thank you for continuing to spread the word. Ginger in Western North Carolina. Well, Ginger, I appreciate that. Appreciate your kind words. But Ginger, you make a good point, because all of us probably have someone, maybe not an ex, but someone that hurt us, and it's been hard to forgive. But forgiveness can be so freeing. And thank you for sharing that. And everybody, I got some other emails and texts, people who asked that I not share them on the show, but similar stories that when they started thinking about it and heard Erica Kirk talk about forgiving the person who killed her husband, who took her husband from her life and her children's life and the nation's life so soon, that this young lady could say, I forgive you. That's very powerful. And I've had a lot of situations where people have said, I forgave somebody too. It's always a good thing to do. Speaking of forgiveness and healing, it's been nearly 30 years now since Susan Smith shocked the nation by killing her 2 sons. You remember the story. This young lady from Union, South Carolina, put her 2 babies in the back seat of her car and let it roll into the lake, and they drowned. Horrible, horrible death. And at the time, though, she reported that a black man had carjacked her and had taken the car with her kids. And that was the story for a long time, for a few weeks. I forget the exact timeline, but it went on for a week or 2 weeks. In hindsight, the law enforcement officials who were involved have said that they suspected her all along, but they kind of let her play out her plan where she eventually admitted to what she had done. Well, next year she comes up for parole again. Tommy Pope is the former prosecutor who led the case against Susan Smith. He now serves in the South Carolina House of Representatives as a Republican. And he was speaking at a true crime conference in Denver, Colorado over the weekend. Mr. Pope said, Susan, to me, needs to remain incarcerated as punishment for what she's done. Now, Smith was just 22 years old when she strapped her 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alexander into their car seats and, again, let them roll to the bottom of the lake. Strapped those little boys into where they could not get out and let her and stood there and watched the car sink for 9 days. I see it here now. I couldn't remember how long it was. For 9 days, she told the world a lie, again, claiming that a black man had carjacked her. The truth, when it eventually came out, sparked outrage and heartbreak across the country. People were just devastated to learn that this young mother had killed her 2 young babies over a relationship. She wanted out of her marriage. She had a boyfriend. How sickening. Now she wants out of jail. Mr. Pope said at first, even he didn't believe that she had gone that far, talking about, killing the babies. He said, carjackers don't take kids. When it came out that she had done it, it was shocking. She was denied parole in 2024, but is eligible again in 2026. Both the former solicitor and the boy's father, David Smith, plan to be there to oppose her release again, as they were last year in 2024. Since her incarceration, Smith has not been the ideal prisoner. She's had inappropriate relationships with prison staffers. She has violated communication rules and other rules in the prison. Mr. Pope says the biggest issue isn't whether she's still dangerous, it's that some crimes should never be forgotten. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. So here we go in Portland, Oregon. It's being called one of the most dramatic federal interventions in an American city in years. President Trump has ordered troops into Portland, calling the city war-ravaged and saying that federal buildings there are under siege by Antifa and domestic terrorists. Federal agents began arriving late this last week on Friday, with clashes breaking out almost immediately outside of a local immigration and customs enforcement facility. The move comes, of course, as part of President Trump's broader promise to restore law and order, like he did in Washington, D.C., and like he has pledged in other big cities. In cities, he says, have been overrun by left-wing extremists and weak local leadership. And Portland, Oregon is a poster child for that. Portland, Oregon has been taken over by left-wing extremists, and they have no local leadership. So what's happening on the ground? Why did the president act now, and how are local officials responding? Well, they're responding exactly the way you think they are. According to footage from KATU TV, an ICE officer was seen shoving a protester to the ground during a confrontation outside the South Portland facility Friday night. Another demonstrator was detained as federal agents moved to disperse crowds. And what you need to understand is this isn't a one-off protest. Residents say these demonstrations, they're often loud, disruptive, chaotic. They've been going on for months. Many tied to immigration issues and far-left activist groups. Who wants to live in a city like that? Well, a lot of the locals are glad that the president's taking the action. Some aren't so happy. David Smith, who lives near the facility, told local media, every night there's tons of protesters basically being vagrants on the street. They're making noise constantly, even when nobody from ICE is outside. In response to the escalating tension, President Trump took to social media, Truth Social, on Saturday, announcing, I have authorized full force to protect war-ravaged Portland and our federal buildings under siege by the Antifa and other domestic terrorists. The order that sent federal agents and military support into Portland over the weekend, the White House isn't releasing specific numbers, but Pentagon insiders told Politico the move caught many by surprise. As you might imagine, in a city like Portland, with woke leftist leadership, their mayor, Keith Wilson, blasted the deployment, calling it unnecessary and unprecedented. He said, we did not ask for them to come. They are here without precedent or purpose. Oregon's Democrat Governor, Tina Kotek, echoed the outrage, saying there's no insurrection, there's no threat to national security, and there's no need for military troops in our major city. She emphasized that the Oregon National Guard is fully capable of handling any situation and that the number of troops Portland needs is, quote, 0. Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici went further, calling Trump's order a gross abuse of power. So these people would rather their cities, like Portland, be ravaged and overtaken by the extremists than admit that they need Donald Trump's help. And look, this isn't the first time that Portland has been caught in the spotlight. Remember the 2020 riots when far-left agitators set fire to police stations, federal courthouses night after night, leaving behind millions of dollars in damages? Who paid for that damage? And once again, Portland is shaping up to be a test case, a city where the Trump administration says it's drawing a line in the sand against lawlessness, as somebody should. The president's argument is very simple. If local leaders won't maintain order, the federal government will. It's just that simple. Because, yes, the city of Portland, they have their own police officers. They have their own state guard. But if the leaders aren't going to use them to protect the other citizens, they're also citizens of the United States. And the president has a duty to protect those so he can send in federal agents. A senior DHS official talking to Fox News said, for too long, Portland has tolerated anarchy. These troops will protect federal property, federal employees, and the rule of law. Critics, of course, from the mayor to progressive lawmakers, say the move risks escalating tensions and provoking violence rather than calming it. So we're just going to sit back and let these extremists literally create chaos, lock down a city because we don't want to upset them or because it could get worse. Is that the thinking? Senator Jeff Merkley, who's a Democrat from Oregon, urged protesters to avoid direct confrontation, saying our responsibility is to express our views, yes, but at a distance from these federal troops. Their goal is to create engagement that leads to conflict. So basically he's saying these federal troops have come here to start a fight, just don't fall for it. Well, look, whatever works, if he can convince them to leave the federal troops alone and go home, then I think we've just accomplished what we wanted to. Now, again, if you look at some of the local news articles, residents seem to be split. Some welcome the federal help, saying Portland has become unsafe with encampments, nightly protests, and a rising crime rate. Others fear a return of the chaos of 2020. Well, look, if you don't get federal troops in there now, you're going to get 2020. One lifelong Portlander, Ocean Hasajasha, I promise you, that's the name, Hasajasha. I don't know what type of name that is. Said, I just remember watching night after night back then, fires, clashes, tear gas, and I'm worried we'll see things blow up again. Well, they'll blow up again if you let these people continue going unchecked. If you just let them run rampage through your city, it's going to happen again. Because, for example, Friday, protesters outside of the ICE office carried signs reading, "Feds go home, this is our city." Many said that they had come out not just to oppose Trump's policies, but to challenge what they call the false narrative that Portland is a war zone. They said it's peaceful here. Obviously, they haven't been to all areas of the city, though, because you don't have to go very far and look very hard in Portland to find chaos. So why did President Trump make this move? He's become increasingly vocal about lawlessness in Democrat-led cities. In recent weeks, he signaled similar deployments in Memphis, Chicago, Oakland, California, framing the issue as part of his America Safe agenda. We know that he was successful in the District of Columbia. He argues that cities like Portland have become symbols of left-wing failure, where progressive policies on crime, homelessness, and immigration have spiraled out of control, and he's right, they have. In his post on True Social, the president said the people of Portland deserve peace and safety. We will not stand by while radical activists destroy their communities. And that's exactly what's happening here. The federal government, and I don't think Trump enjoys this, but he understands that if you don't stop it soon enough, it escalates and it becomes worse. And then, yes, we're back to 2020 when they're literally taking over police precincts and burning them down. We don't want that. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.